Sorry, my unmute was not unmuting. Yeah, I'm just getting us started to launch on YouTube right now.
So we're good?
We're good.
Thank you. Okay, Ellie Costello, Micah Sewell, and Shane Morrissey all let me know that they could not attend. And Andy Mefford is absent. Josh Schrader.
Here.
Schrader's present. Dave Loomis said he would be here. Hopefully he'll drop in later. Neva Hassanen. Here. Is present. Toon Pham.
Here.
Toon Pham's present. Jim Bichond.
Here.
Jim Bichond's present. Sean McCoy.
Here.
Sean McCoy's present. Vince Caristo.
Here.
Vince Caristo's present. Mr. Chair, there are 5 regular members and 1 alternate. Would you like to appoint Mr. Bichond as a regular voting member tonight?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Wonderful. So next up is approval of the minutes from the meeting 2 weeks ago. I was not in attendance, but it looks like there was a robust discussion, and thanks, Sean, for leading the meeting. Are there any changes or additions to the minutes that anyone would like to propose, or a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll move to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
Great, thanks. Motion by Tung, seconded by Sean. All in favor of the motion to approve the minutes, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, none opposed. The motion passes. So next up, we have public comment tonight from members of the public who would like to speak with us about any issue on their mind. So if we could get the instructions, Heather, thank you, on the screen here for calling in and making public comment tonight. So you'll either, if you're using the Zoom console, participating in that way, to indicate your desire to speak, you'll use the raise hand function on the bottom right-hand portion of your Zoom console to let me know that you'd like to speak. If you're dialing in by phone, you will use the *9 to raise your hand to be called on for public comment, and then when you are called on, which will call on you by the last 4 numbers of your phone number, you'll press *6 to mute and unmute. So there is a delay, I know, between this and the YouTube stream, so I'll go on mute for a minute or 2 here and give people a chance to call in if they'd like to do so.
I have a quick question for Jamie. I have 2 attendees in the waiting room, a Jacob Cummings and a Megan Von Bargen. Did you want either of those promoted to panelist?
I don't think they need to be panelists, but just as long as Megan might provide a couple comments.
Okay, I'll go ahead and promote them. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Well, with those 2 promoted from the waiting room to the general meeting, we have no one in the waiting room at this time. So I'm going to close the public comment portion of the meeting and we'll move on. So tonight we do not have any staff announcements, I believe. Is that still the case, staff?
That is correct.
Okay, wonderful. So we'll move on to our public hearing for tonight. We have 1 public hearing, which is the long edition in the county rezoning proposal. It'll be presented by Matt Heimel at the county. Matt, thanks for joining us tonight. The floor is yours when you're ready.
All right. Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Matt Heimel here with Missoula County Community and Planning Services. Present brief presentation on the staff report for the long edition of Rezone. And I'll share my screen if I can find where to click. There we go. Okay, can everyone see the screen share I have?
Yes, it looks good.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, this is the planning board public hearing for the long edition rezone first scheduled planning board hearing, and then there will be a hearing with the Board of County Commissioners on August 12th. So the applicant for this request is Jack Long Enterprises LLC, represented by Jamie Erbacher with WGM Group. There's an address for two of the lots here, 9950 Long Acres Lane. This is lots 1 through 6 of Long Edition number 2, phases 1 through 3, located in the southwest area of the Y off of Alita Drive, just southwest of Expressway. So here is a broader overview of the property location. As I said, southwest of Expressway in the Y area off of Alita Drive. And here's a closer aerial imagery dated approximately 2020, showing most of the property being vacant. Two of the lots are developed with a structure that's mostly awaiting tenant improvements to my knowledge. Most of the lots in Long Edition are currently vacant, but infrastructure is in place. So the property, most of the lots are currently zoned CC2, general commercial. That's a auto-oriented commercial zoning district. And a southern portion of these lots, you can see there's a lighter blue shade here, is currently zoned CI1 light industry. And then most of the area to the south, including some of the Long Edition lots, are zoned CI1 light industry. And the request is to zone all the subject properties from CC2 general commercial to CI1 light industry. Given that there is this differing zoning in this location, I'll flip to the land use designation from the 2019 Missoula Area Land Use Element, which is an amendment to the 2016 growth policy. And as you can see, these lots and their surrounding lots are all designated with the industrial center land use. And then to the east, there is a commercial center land use. So I'll go back to existing zoning. And here is that land use designation again. As you can see, this proposal is really to catch up with the industrial center land use, so rezoning from CC2 commercial to CI1 light industry. And one of the primary goals for that industrial center land use is to contribute to the county's economic base by providing places where people work, create, build, store, and distribute goods and services. So in a rezone request, we look at some specific criteria, and I have those criteria here on the screen, and I'm happy to go over those if anyone wants me to. In staff's review, we did not identify any issues with this request relative to the review criteria. Found that this request for a rezoning from CC2 commercial to CI1 light industry meets all the criteria, and staff is recommending approval of the rezone request. So it's fairly straightforward. That concludes my presentation. I'm happy to take any questions about the current or proposed zoning, the land use, and the applicant's representative is also on the call with us. I'll also note that we did not receive any public comments, and we did not receive any agency comments of concern, expressing that any concern. So essentially no comments from the public or agencies on this proposal.
Well, thank you, Matt. And Jamie, you're representing the applicant here. Would you like to say anything?
You know, I think Matt pretty well covered it. It is a pretty straightforward request. Maybe the only additional thing that I would add is that the property is within the new TED boundary that the county established. So any new development that happens on these parcels will contribute to the increment for the Y area TED district out there. Happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
Great, thank you. Yeah, thanks for reminding us of that. We saw that at some point, I think last year, here at the planning board. So we will go into the public comment portion of the hearing tonight. If we could get Heather, please, the instructions for calling in back on the screen here. Anyone viewing tonight's meeting, if you'd like to make a comment on this project to the planning board, please use the Zoom console and log in to the Zoom console and use the raise hand function on the bottom right-hand portion of the screen, or you can dial in by phone. And if you dial in by phone, use *9 to raise your hand, so that to indicate your desire to speak, and then when you're called on, press *6 to mute or unmute yourself. So again, because of the delay between us and YouTube, I will go on mute for a couple of minutes and give people a chance to call in. All right, I haven't seen any activity in the waiting room, so we will close the public comment portion of the hearing and open up the floor to questions from planning board members. Does anyone have any questions for Matt or Jamie tonight? Tung, why don't you go first?
I just had more of a general question for Matt. He kind of alluded to it, that this rezoning request is essentially catching up a little bit to the new land use policy. And I was just curious if if you could provide any color to the history of why this was originally zoned general commercial versus light industrial, and if they anticipate additional requests of this nature where we're essentially over time going to be rezoning that whole area.
Okay, sure, be happy to. So this area originally had this commercial zoning designation in line with land use designation at the time, and we see a few areas in the county that had the 2019 land use element give a new character for how growth would be guided in a specific location, although that did not necessarily rezone underlying areas. And I don't know if we have upcoming, if we'll see any more requests. We certainly could. I just don't have the indications at this time. Right now, I can tell you I don't have any applications on hand.
Great, thanks.
Jamie.
Thanks, Vincent. Maybe a little more information there for you too. Missoula County is currently working on their code update. And as part of that, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Matt, there is an intention for the county to rezone those areas within what they call the mount boundary. And so this area of the Y would be rezoned eventually to match the land use designation that's within the land use element plan of industrial center. And the reason that we're requesting the zoning prior to that zoning being adopted by the county is that our client does have some interested parties in occupying the building on lots 3 and 4, and also potential additional opportunities for development on the other lots 1 through, I guess that'd be 2 and 5 and 6.
Great, thanks for that, Jamie. Follow up on that question, Matt, from me. Is this the industrial zoning that's being asked for? Is it inclusive of all the uses in the current zoning? Or are there some uses that are now going to be prohibited?
Sure. So there are some uses. So to restart, it is not all inclusive of uses that are currently allowed in CC2 general commercial. One of the main examples I'd have are residential uses, which are generally not permitted in the light industrial zone, except for maybe one unit for a caretaker or a manager. Otherwise, it looks like most of the commercial, or what you could generally think of a commercial use, would be also included as permitted uses in CI1. So mostly inclusive except for residential, which is not allowed.
Okay, thank you. Are there any more questions for Matt or Jamie? All right, well, if there's no questions, this is appears to be a relatively straightforward one in my opinion, but I would entertain a motion at this time. And maybe if we could, Matt, did you have the recommended motion on your slideshow? Wonderful, thank you very much.
I'll make a stab at a motion here, Vince.
Thanks, Sean.
Let's see. I'd like to make a motion that the request for rezoning the portion of Long Addition number 2, phases 1 through 3, lots 1 through 6, zone CC2, general commercial, to the CI1 light industrial zoning district be approved based on the findings of fact and conclusion of law contained in the staff report.
Very nice, thank you, Sean. Is there a second out there?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you, Jim. So the motion made by Sean, seconded by Jim. So we'll open the floor for discussion. Would anyone like to say anything before we call a vote? Neva.
Seems pretty reasonable to me, and I think like we're heading in a direction of more mixed use, and this, it sounds like we'll also do that by allowing some residential, if I understood Matt correctly. And that's kind of a concept in the new zoning that's coming up. So it seems to make sense to me from that perspective and from what's around it. So I will support it.
Wonderful. All right, so if there's no other comments, we'll call a roll call. We'll do a voice vote on this one. So all in favor of the motion made by Sean and seconded by Jim, please say aye.
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 Aye. All right, any opposed? There are no opposed. The motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much, Matt and Jamie, for being here.
Thank you. Appreciate it very much.
All right, have a nice night.
You as well.
So we'll move on in our agenda tonight. It is not very full. So unless there happened to be a committee meeting, Neva, for the growth policy, or what was the committee that I'm forgetting the name after all these years of not having a report.
Oh, the Urban Growth Commission? No.
Okay. So if there's no report from the Urban Growth Commission, then we'll move on down to comments from planning board members. So would any of you like to share with us tonight? This would be the time.
Holy moly, that was the easiest thing I've done on this board.
We've earned it, Sean. We've earned it.
We have indeed earned one of those.
Great. Well, thanks for coming out tonight, everyone, in the middle of the summer. Yeah, I think this is well deserved to have a short meeting here. I know it wasn't all that short 2 weeks ago. So good to see you all. Yeah, anything else anyone wants to say before I close the meeting? All right. Great. Have a great night, everyone. I'll see you next time.
Take care.
Thanks. Same to you. Bye.